Hey guys, what's up? This is Tom, and I want to share a little German sunset with you. Well, that's not the only thing I want to share with you. So, I am on a train, as you can see. Duh. And I've been thinking about limitations today, because I am on a train ride which goes for 3 hours. I just dropped off my kids with their mom, and now I have to go back. And so I have 3 hours to work. I have 3 hours, and the task that I have set myself is to come up with the best drum arrangement for this tune that I've been working on with one of my band projects. So 3 hours a drum arrangement. Well, it's kind of simple, right? Well, it's not so simple if you think of what is the number one enemy of creative flow, which is, wait for it, overthinking. So I've, during my coaching sessions and in my talks with other musicians, I found there to be a massive amount of overthinking and of anxiety that basically stifles creative flow. And just the other day, somebody I work with sent me a bunch of ideas that he had, and he wanted to know if it's any good. Basically, he wanted feedback on it, and I listened to his the file that he sent me for arrangements, and I thought, well, dude, this is what I said to him. Like, I could make, or you could make 10 songs out of this one file that he thought was like a treasure trove of ideas to put into one and the same song. And
nächste Station, Blankensee, Mecklenburg.
There you go, in the middle of nowhere. Nobody wants to get off here. So the point is that there was clearly such an amount of overthinking at work that he wanted this to be special, amazing, mind-blowing. So he just kept working on and on and on, and he amassed this ridiculous amount of ideas, and a lot of them were more than good enough to base an entire new piece of music around. So that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to be working in this kind of way, because it's not economical, and it leads to basically tearing yourself apart creatively. Always wondering, is it good enough? When can I stop? You want to be going from one idea to the next, always searching for something that may never come. So, again, in a nutshell, overthinking is the natural enemy of creative flow. So, what do we do about that? Well, one of the things that I have been doing about this in the last couple of years, which has worked very well for me, which was born out of necessity, because my life is pretty complicated sometimes. I have to spend a lot of time, as you can see, on trains, in transit, on planes. And so the time that I actually do get to spend at home writing and creating sometimes is pretty limited. It's not what I want it to be. So do I cry about it, run to mama, or do I find a way to deal with it and to turn this into an advantage? So let me share with you what I'm doing right now. I'm sitting on this train car. Oh, sorry for the shaky cam. And I'm working out this drum arrangement. And I gave myself... sorry. And I gave myself a time constraint. I have 3 hours on this train. And I know I could be working on this drum arrangement for like a 3-minute tune, a rather simple tune, for 3 hours. And I could try to make it, perfect, to make it pop, to make it the freshest drum arrangement anybody has ever heard, quote unquote, in those 3 hours. And I know from experience that this kind of thinking is kind of egoic-based thinking, which just drives me insane. I would probably work on the intro for the first 45 minutes and try to come up with, a ton of different variations until I found the best one, and then go on to the next. And probably I wouldn't be able to finish this drum arrangement in 3 hours, just because I get, oh no, my favorite actors, just because I get, I'll fix this in there. Caught up in the tide of trying to perfect something that is not meant to be perfect at this point in time. And this is so key, guys. This is like one of the most fundamental elements of this creative flow thing, that you have to respect. You have to be aware and have to respect that there's different phases of creativity, and don't mix those up. If you end up mixing those up, if you end up mixing the creation part, the creative flow, the inspiration part, with the technical final micromanaging part, if you mix those two up, then you're fucked, basically. At least if you're like me and you're having a lifelong tendency for overthinking and for perfectionism. And in my book, The 6 Pillars of Creativity, which I am hereby advertising, there is also a lengthy bit about perfectionism, and that is basically a sign of insecurity. Just basically put in your shadow. Then that this kind of micromanaging that you're engaging in when you're being too perfectionist is, again, an enemy of true creative flow. So, what to do? Well, in this train ride, which is 3 hours long, again, I could just let it happen and say, I've got 3 hours for this work, for this drum arrangement. Let's, make it the best it can be. Or, which is what I did, I divided these 3 hours into 3 parts. So I've got 1 hour, the first hour, to do this drum arrangement, and to just start at the beginning, work my way through the ending, and just make a arrangement. Not the best, not the perfect, but a arrangement. And I'm not even trying to make an arrangement that I particularly like. I just try to go from one part to the next, to the next, to the next. Basically covering all the real estate of the song with my drum arrangements. Spill all my little drum notes and ideas over the song. So I've got an arrangement after 1 hour. And the purpose of that is not to half-ass the arrangement, quite the opposite. The purpose of that is to sidestep my own tendency to be perfectionist and to micromanage ideas. And so maybe there is a part where it's just 4 on the floor kick drum for a couple of bars. So I could be trying to make this a lot more creative and a lot more intricate. But since I don't have feel yet for the entire song, for what will happen with the other players, how does it fit in the overall structure of the song, that would just be not the time and place for it. So I'm just working my way through the arrangement, getting a feel for the song, putting down raw ideas and making sure that one part flows to the next. So I can do this in an hour, and I just did. And so now the second hour will be dedicated entirely to listening to the song, to the arrangement that I did, and now I will get into the micromanagement. Now I will be trying, for example, to make sure that the flow of the other instruments, the flow of the themes and motifs will be represented in the drums. I will be making sure that the internal flow is right. You don't have a mismatch of how long one kind of drumming goes and the other one, so maybe you have like a minute of blast beats, just for like as a random example, and then you have like 2 bars of like a slow beat. That would be a mismatch for this kind of tune. So you make sure that it flows right, and then you make, or at least I always try to make sure that there's little motifs in the drums, not just in the other instruments, like little melodic motifs, but I also make sure that there's little motifs in the drums, like the use of a certain drum, the use of like a hand clap, for example, or just the use of a certain rhythmic phrase that will give the song a more identifiable and unique feel. Things like that. And I know from experience that if I try all of these at once, writing the arrangement, doing the structure, getting the feel for the song, and then also doing this detail work, I just get so consumed by details, by micromanagement, then I get frustrated, and I can work myself into a corner, and then I end up like my friend who I consulted a little bit these last couple of days, who wrote all of these ideas in one file, that he doesn't know where to stop, he doesn't know when it's good. You lose perspective, and that is not a place where you want to be in creative work. So having this natural tendency for overthinking and perfectionism and giving myself these artificial time constraints and limitations, for me, has completely changed the game. And I just finished this drum arrangement in an hour, and now I have the next hour of the train ride after I do this. Then for the detail work, and I know I'm just so relaxed about the whole thing. I know it will be good. I know it will be what I set out to do. I've done it before. I have the confidence that is based on having created a method of work for myself and tried it out many times, that I know will give me the best possible result. So I don't need to be stressing about it. Will the other ones in the band like it? Can I finish it? All these maybes, ifs, and possiblies, they're not in my mind, which is also something that comes by giving yourself, or comes with giving yourself, these constraints, right? Because you also sidestep these voices in your head a little bit, because you enable yourself to concentrate on a pretty simple task, right? And immerse yourself in that work if you can. Now, especially when you're trying to write, not producing, not mixing, not recording, but just writing. One of the things that I see a lot with clients of mine and people who are asking my advice and come to me for coaching sessions is that they always try to think for other people. And this is another sign of insecurity. Sorry, everybody. I know I do the same sometimes. If you try to write a song, excuse me, and you're not writing basic parts, and you're not writing what I call a framework, but you're writing super intricate things, and you're orchestrating for 7 guitars, drum set, bass, horns, oboe, and then like a fake MIDI orchestra already, while you haven't even mapped out the structure, while you don't have a flow for where a sense for the flow of the song, that is a massive sign of insecurity. And I'm not saying that to put anybody down, but just as an assessment of what the problem is. And I'm totally guilty of this. I have been guilty of this in the past.
Neustrelitz, Hauptbahnhof.
You do not want to get out here. Not at all. I remember being chased through the woods by Nazis when I was a teenager, just because of my long hair. Fuck that. Anyway,
Bitte in Fahrtrichtung rechts aussteigen.
So you want to make, like in the example of my arrangement here, I want it to be good enough so I can present my idea of the song and the arrangement to the other guys and make them go, well, that's interesting, that's cool, we may keep this. But I do not want to get married to it. I do not want to form an emotional bond to what I did. Why not? Well, because then it's very hard to accept changes, and it's very hard to communicate with the other people who may end up working on this, right? Because music is a team sport, and even if you're like the sole dictator in your own solo, like one-man black metal keyboard project, don't want to be mean, just came to my mind. Even if that is the case, you want to value the opinion of others, because that will make your music better. And you can't do that if your sense of self-worth, your ego, is married to something that you did. Just because you spend an awful amount of time doing something doesn't mean it's great, doesn't mean it's perfect or anything. It just is. right? And you want to be able to get it to a point, like in the case of this arrangement, where it's good enough and specific enough to say what you want to say, and to make other people feel what you feel for the song, but not where you suffocate them with details that cannot be changed, that are too specific. You want to be in the sweet spot, and it's so easy to lose sight of for that sweet spot. So again, setting yourself these limitations, after completion of which you need to let it go. That's the best thing you can do. So in my case, doing this drum arrangement for 1 hour for the entire song. Then second hour of the train ride, I will be doing the detail work, and then I could be working on it for 60 more minutes. I could, but I won't, because I know this natural tendency that I have to, then to put in too many details and to get sucked into, the micromanagement, and then I get emotionally involved in the piece of music, and then when the drummer will say, well, that's cool, but I don't feel I want to do something different, then my ego gets attacked, and then things get difficult. So I want to prevent that. Oh, guys, I'm sorry, but you have to check out this lovely sunset. Hope the sun comes out one more time. Oh, maybe not, but it's beautiful. So I have another 60 minutes to do this, but I won't, because I know that it's the best for everybody involved if I just, after 2 hours, I let it go. And oh, there it is. No, it's gone again. Fuck. All right. So 60 more minutes of the train. What do? Well, I have the new John McLaughlin album here on my laptop, so I may just as well reward myself for the work that I have been doing, and for being able to let go this piece of music by letting myself get inspired by the new John McLaughlin album, which I have been looking forward to check out, with no distractions. Now stop. There you go. Well, that is rewarding. So, working your ass off is great. Being an overachiever, well, good for you. But you need to balance it out, and you need to give yourself these little rewards, like I will be doing in the last hour that I'm sitting here for today, and not get sucked in this vortex of working, work hard, but also work smart. So in my case, that means I have to give myself these rewards, and I have to give myself these time constraints. And I know from talking to a lot of people about these issues for a long time that this is also something that other people can benefit from. So, long story short, limit yourself, limit your time to be working on something, and organize the time that you're working on something into, or by keeping these different phases of creativity in mind. Give yourself ample time, but not too much time for creating in a moment, for reacting to the problem, and for being inspired and working in the flow. But then give yourself also a limited time to working on the details and doing the micromanagement. And you have to find out for yourself how long that takes for you and how to organize those. Right? I think I'm already being a little bit too specific and maybe suffocating with information. So let's wrap it up with that. If you want to know more, my new book, The 6 Pillars of Creativity, has loads of other stuff about creativity, basically everything I think you need to know in a nutshell. And the idea is for those of you who are struggling with creative expression, struggling with being creative, struggling with writer's block, struggling also maybe with expressing yourself as an artist, coming up with things that are maybe unique to you and that only you do, that you think you have in yourself, but you can't express yet. If any of these things sound familiar to you, well, this is the book for you. It's the book to read, The 6 Pillars of Creativity. Link on YouTube is in the description. Link on social media is in my bio. It's free. The only thing I ask is your email address to, once in a blue moon, give you, a little email poke to advertise like a new album I just released or another book maybe. So I think that's more than fair. So check it out, like it, love it, share it with friends if you can, and I will see you in the next mini lecture. Peace out. I will be getting back to my arrangement.